Hello, good evening everyone. I am Nav, technical lead and a data scientist at Acrotrend, and Dylan, our senior full stack developer from Acrotrend. Apparently we are data geeks playing with big numbers, the machine learning and all that, so it might put up a question on some of the JavaScript developers. What the hell are you doing with JavaScript? But there's a lot to explore in this language, and surprisingly, it's really amazing. So we looked at some JavaScript tools which are useful for data consultants. So is it switching? Oh, cool. Yeah, that's nice. So this is like the most popular use case. Whenever we talk about JavaScript at our company, they're like, yeah, it's a web stack. Normally goes with HTML, CSS, and it looks nice on web interface and stuff like that. But we also wanted to see like what other cases are there. And looking at this rocket, which is actually to illustrate the evolution in JavaScript, the introduction of Node, NPM, and all that fancy stuff, which brings us to using the JavaScript. And when I came into the room and met a couple of people here, they were like, what are you guys doing? Are you developers? And we're like, yes, we are developers, but we develop kind of more sort of machine code. But then they're like, how are you developing JavaScript? And what I said, I was like, mainly my technical lead, when he came into kind of work, and he said, Nav, you're going to be talking about JavaScript. And I was like, to me, what it sounds like is you're telling a pilot to drive a really fancy car.
Basically, yeah. I mean, if you're a full stack developer working with data guys, you're going to get a lot of sort of common tasks. So probably one of the really common tasks that you guys get, I know I get it a lot, is sort of take like a CSV file or an Excel file, pull it apart and load it to some sort of data source. It's really, really common use case. There's a really nice framework. It's actually made by a bunch of guys called astronomerio. The whole thing's open source. It's available on GitHub. It's very, very, very light, and it's very, very easy. And basically, you just use it for developing multi-stage workflows, and entirely written in Node.js. So if you're comfortable in Node.js, you're comfortable with the JavaScript ecosystem, it should be fairly natural for you to kind of pick this up and kind of get started with it. We'll go through a quick code walkthrough, and you'll see that it's extremely simple to start using it. But what's really nice is that it's really, really powerful. So for things that you might sort of want to go to, like things like, I don't know, like cascading or Flume or Kafka, this kind of really presents a really viable, lighter solution. And it's obviously very quick to spin up. So if you want to get started with it, it's very, very easy. It comes as a UMain generator, so basically, obviously, just install it. It's called generator Aries activity, and then you can just yo it, just to basically get your scaffolding there. The scaffolding structure is, again, very, very logical. So your main application is going to be in the lib directory, and you'll see that there's going to be a stub on task method there, and that's basically your primary entry point. And I'll put up a code example on the next slide, so I won't just talk theoretically. There's also a unit test, or stubbed out unit test there. So basically that's going to be in, sorry, that's a typo actually. That should be in test, oh no, it's not a typo. It should be in test.js. And obviously that's used for unit testing your main application, any imports that you might have on that, and any kick-out functions that you write. And in that they put a default pass and fail case there for you, so it's really easy to start modifying that. There's a hidden .m file, just basically put all your static declarations in that, and then you can expose that through the test.config.js, and that object is actually exposed into your test.js with the scaffolding that's given to you there. So basically, you've pretty much got everything that you need to start sort of running out of the box. So if you download that, you do your npm run test, essentially you've got a pass and a fail straight there, really nice and easy. If we take an example, and if you check out that GitHub, they have got literally tons of examples. So it doesn't really matter what your source and sink is. If it's, you're connecting to MariaDB or Redshift or it might be something kind of weird like Jira or something like that. They've got connectors for everything there, or examples of how to connect to these things. So it keeps it very, honestly, there's a lot of example code there to go by, which is the nice thing about being open. Cool. So if we have a quick look at the index.js, you can see that they've effectively used a library here to convert CSV to JSON. Why go off and reinvent the wheel? I've highlighted that basically your class will always extend an activity class because that's effectively what you're chaining together. And basically the config file that you saw previously, or the config object that you saw previously, again is exposed in this file. So you can read up all your objects there. Very, very straightforward. The actual conversion function, you've probably read ahead of me, very basic. It's just wrapping CSV to JSON, and it's just returning a stream, which obviously we'll use in 2 seconds. The BuildConverter, I've just put it there for curiosity, but you can see all it's doing is consuming the configs and effectively just using the pre-rolled functionality of CSV to JSON just to build a converter factory. So that's quite easy. In the test.js, which essentially I'll give you some output from that in a second, all you're really doing is just taking that stream and comparing it with something else. So that's the pre-roll test that you get from the GitHub repository. But you can see it's very, very simple, and if you wanted to use that and chain it to the next activity, very straightforward there actually. So I've just kind of highlighted the major 2 lines there. The main thing with this, obviously because you're dealing with streaming data and Node, the throughput was really quite impressive actually. And it would be nice to contrast this with against Flume or Kafka or whatever, but we don't have that contrast. But this was on a fairly lowly provisioned Docker image, and you can see a million records. We were able to just kind of rip through them in about 40 seconds. So if you're given like a quick task just to rip something apart, it's a fairly viable option just to kind of really spin up something quickly. And then obviously even for like production systems as well, it's not really not difficult to use this if you want to move quickly. Example starter projects that they give you, there's quite a lot. Jira, Twitter, Facebook, Google AdWords, Google Analytics, it's all there basically. And it's very, like I said, it's very straightforward to actually read through the example and kind of get started with that. So yeah, so basically it was just something that we've started to use, and we've started to find it useful, particularly because it's saved us a lot of time for a lot of projects where we need to deliver things quickly. And we kind of thought we might throw it out there just in case people aren't using this, they're not aware of it. And yeah, just kind of for your consideration, and if you think you'd find it useful.